Welcome, everyone, to the 5 Tips and Tricks for Careers in Athletics. I am your host, Dr. Maury Mosovitz, with my favorite all-time best guest or co-host, Jen Albanese. Hello, Jen.
Hello, Maury. How many more adjectives are you going to use?
I'm just going to keep adding on. I'm just going to by the end of our run of the podcast, it's going to be like a 2-hour introduction of just you.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Only for you.
Yeah, I know. I'm good. How are you? What's going on?
Doing well.
Yeah.
Something that we've talked about frequently, and you said actually has changed my demeanor. I have started, I'm going to say jogging. I don't want to say running. I think people overuse the word, and I might be a stretch at jogging. If people watch me, it might be quick walking at my age at this point.
All right. Well, first of all, I will say yes, Maury, as you probably have all known from watching some of these episodes, little anxiety, just like me.
Yeah.
We've got a little bit of anxiety and we get a little hyped up, and it's good to be able to find something that calms us, and running and any sort of exercise is really good for you. So I'm very happy that you're doing that. And I want to remind everybody that this is not the first time that Maury was jogging or running, however we want to put it. You used to do it back when we first started working together, 10
I ran
or so
cross
years
country
ago.
in high school, so that if we really want to go way far back now,
wow.
I did throw up after every practice and meet, which I don't know if is a good sign or not.
No.
But yes, when we first started knowing each other, and I was like right out of college, I did run more consistently.
Yes. And I did too. I mean, obviously life happens and we have families and stuff, so it's probably harder to find the time. But back when we were a little bit younger, we did used to run frequently, not together, but we would run. So a lot of people that are probably listening to this podcast know NACMA and NACTA that they have every summer.
Yeah.
And
CFMA for the facilities people.
Yeah. So it's basically just a conference through the NCAA that they do.
No, it's a national association for it's primarily focused on college athletic directors or administration.
Yeah. So they do that every summer, and we would go. And I remember we went to the one in Dallas, Texas.
Yep.
And we had a big contingent from Syracuse go because one of our administrators were receiving an award. It was a great trip. It was a great trip. And they had a lot of programming around the conference, and they had different networking sessions, and they had a 5K fun run.
Yes.
Okay. So Maury and I, before we even were there, we were like, oh, we should so do this.
We're going to sign up for everything.
Okay. So we signed up. Now, anybody obviously who lives in Dallas, Texas knows that June in Dallas, Texas
is hot as hell.
Extremely hot. It was 100+ degrees.
It was ridiculous.
So they scheduled this fun run at 6 a.m. 6 a.m. Okay. So now again, at NACTA, it's a lot about networking. So you're going out and getting drinks with people, and you're hanging out in the lobby bar, and you're chatting and catching up with people. So you do that every night. So obviously it's not like we're going to bed, getting rest for this fun
for
run
this intensive run.
So here Maury and I are at 5:30 in the morning. We've got to get up and get ready. And we go to this fun run. And I
remember walking out the door and feeling the humidity and the heat just hit you. It was terrible.
And it was around the grounds of the conference.
Yeah, you were working a loop around the hotel.
And it was looping, and you would do it a couple of times, and finally we finished.
And these assistant associate ADs that were on the cross country team at Alabama and Navy, and Jen and I are these idiots that decided that we're going to try and just keep up with these people.
I mean, we finished. I'm very proud of us, but at
the
end, we were both
I think you dragged me across the end.
No, we definitely stayed together because I was
100%.
I'm not doing this alone.
There was a 90-year-old woman who was founded NACTA that just finished right before us.
And we were not the last ones done, but we were close.
We were pretty close.
We were pretty close. But you know what? It was fun. It's a great story. And I'm so glad that you're back to running. I'm trying to get back to doing it. We have
jogging,
whatever it is. It's physical activity that I feel like sometimes even as you get older and you're busy with your family and your job gets more demanding, like you don't find time for yourself.
Yes.
And I think it's important that you do that. It's when we talk about boundaries and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm very proud of you that
Thank you. I
loving.
appreciate it. The next NACTA conference we're at, I will drag you to the 5K run again.
Do they even do those anymore?
Yes, they do. We'll be back to it. So with that note, we will be back after these messages. If you're enjoying this podcast, please follow us on your favorite podcast streaming service. The 5 Tips and Tricks podcast is a part of Athletic Career Consulting, a group focused on educating and guiding high school and college students looking towards careers in athletics. To find out more, go to our website at www.athcareer.com. That's ATHCAREER.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back. So we have our guest here. Maury, would you like to introduce him?
I am very excited. This one's very personal to me. A 1992 graduate of Davis Elkins College. He went on to teach 1 year at Harlem Park in West Baltimore as an educational intern in middle school history and English. He then changed to go on to spend 30 years of teaching at St. Paul's School in Baltimore, where he continues to teach. In his first 3 years of teaching, he was a co-teacher in the pre-first program, followed by becoming the lower school one of the lower school PE teachers, including for the last 12 years as the lower school PE coordinator. He has coached many sports at St. Paul's, including middle school, fresh soft, JV, and varsity football, basketball, and lacrosse. Since 2008, he's been on the varsity football staff, and as of this year was named head coach. During his time at St. Paul's, he has been a part of 2 fresh soft, 1 JV, and 7 varsity MIAA championship programs. In coordination with his teaching and coaching, he has mentored dozens of young people to get into fields in athletics. This spring, he was awarded the first ever honorary alumni of St. Paul's School. It is my pleasure to welcome to the podcast, Neil Keenan. Welcome, Neil.
Hi,
Thank
Neil.
you. Thank you for having me.
It's very exciting. I don't think people can realize what this means to me because of your relationship in my life. I would not have been doing this nor anything related to athletics if it wasn't for you.
Well, I know that
you're going to make me cry. I'm like teary-eyed. Oh, my gosh.
it was pretty easy when you came and needed a athletic credit and became our manager and basically took over the program and ran. Jack Mack and I made sure we were on where we were going. You were a natural at it, and I knew you do phenomenal at what you do right now as an assistant AD.
Well, I know you're underselling this because I think you actually hunted me down and said, I think you should be a manager, because I think I was actually going to just take the PE class and skip doing the managing thing. And you kind of went to me and said, I'll never forget it, in a hallway and said, you know what? A lot of your friends are on the teams or doing this stuff. Like, you're going to be really good at this. You need to try and do it. And it changed my life. It changed the course of how it would be for me. And the thing about it is, a lot of kids that have gone through St. Paul's, you have done the same thing for. And I don't think you're recognized enough for it, though I'm happy that the school gave you the honor this year. But on the athletic side, I don't think there's a lot of people that are fortunate enough, like I was, to have a mentor that said, hey, this is something that you should look at and do. And wasn't thinking of it as a profession, just something to be a part of. And you helped me see all the opportunities that it could bring to me. So I do thank you.
You're welcome. And I appreciate all the kind words. I think kids being managers is an underrated idea. I don't think they realize what they bring to the team and how much they can still be a part of the team. They just think that they're just, this water person or stat person, but realistically they are as important to the team as anybody. Because without them, we can't do the stuff we need to get done. As coaches, we would have to do extra stuff. So, I've always felt that way. I was a manager in college. I was a manager in high school, and as well as an athlete, and enjoyed both aspects of it. So,
Well,
Well,
Neil, on behalf of everyone, thank you for bringing us Maury, because
oh,
we are so lucky to have him and the impact that he's had on others because of you. So thank you, Neil,
Oh,
from
you're
me
welcome.
she's
personally and
crossing her
everyone
fingers,
else.
Neil. She's not
I'm
telling the
not.
truth.
No, no, I am. And I know a lot of people could back me up. So thank
Well,
you, Neil.
yeah.
Well, the
He's a good
list
young
is
man.
very long of all the people and on top of me, Neil has gotten involved, and I've been very lucky because a lot of them have actually come up to Syracuse or other places and gotten involved. So I've got to spread the wealth of some of the stuff that Neil has brought to students. So
That's awesome. That's
um,
awesome.
one of the first reasons, Neil, I thought like you got to be on this because you have so much experience and just being able to tell with people who are interested in being involved with physical education, being involved with coaching. You have such a wide variety, and I think it's important for people to hear what you know. So with that, hit us with your tricks.
Well, I mean, I was given 5. So I was told to give 5. The first one came to me from I was all worried about wins and losses when I was younger, and I was worried about the techniques and stuff like that. And I had this Mr. Renko sat me down. He was a teacher in the middle school, and he said, "You know something, son?" He says, "I got to tell you, you got to forget about X's and O's." He goes, "They come and go." He's like, "Relationships are what drives what you do." And I'm like, relationships. I mean, like I was told not to become friends with the kids. I was told this, and he says, "No, no, no. It's not being friends. It's just getting to know them. It's understanding them. You know, just because you see a kid at school, you don't know what they're going through at home, or what their home life is. Sometimes being on the field might be the best time of their day because they get to forget the stuff that goes on in the classroom. Maybe they're not a good student, or maybe they're this." So I started thinking about it. I'm like, okay, and then and I was memorial, attest. I can get a little excited.
Fire.
I can raise my voice. All right,
Passionate.
mainly passionate. I'm very passionate with the officials.
Love it.
But what I started to understand is, so if I yell at a kid or if I get on them about something they did wrong, and it's more constructive yelling, you got to go and pat them on the back and be like, "All right, look, made a mistake. What's next?" And one of the things in the last 10, 15 years is I've adapted is adversity hits. When adversity hits, what do we do? Do we allow it to stop us? Do we make mistakes? Continue to make mistakes on top of the adversity, or do you fix it? And if you just fix it and do the next thing that you're supposed to do, okay, you'll be fine. So I try to let kids know adversity hits everybody. I mean, God knows adversity's hit me in this business. The amount of times I've been turned down for jobs at the school that I've worked at for 30 years. And it's what do you do next? Well, you work harder. You find out why you didn't interview well so you can interview again, and you do it right. You ask people questions, find the right people to ask questions to. So I think, my first really trick or tip is to get to know your kids and have a relationship with them, and that doesn't mean you have to be their best friends, take them out for ice cream every day. It just means get to know them, know that, somebody might carry 7 classes on a Wednesday and be exhausted at practice, and they're not giving you their effort. It's not because they don't want to. They're tired. So you make sure, you give them a break, or you give them an opportunity to sit down for a second and relax, and then you fix it. We've had kids, and Muriel knows, we had kids who couldn't afford to eat lunch. So they're getting to practice. They're dog tired because they didn't have money so as coaches, we went and found, a way to get them food so they could eat. It's little things. And I think, to me, coaching has always been besides relationships, is the little things. If you do the little things right, the big things take care of themselves.
Yeah, I mean, it's the thing I remember about about you, and then also about other coaches that I went on to work with in college is they knew the kids they were working with, and really it went deeper than just we want you to score goals, or those are the programs I've been around that have been successful because it was more than just the game or the practices. It was about creating a community around that. It was about coaches that went beyond, just showing them X's and O's. And as a person that was involved with those teams, it made them so much more special than just, walking into the locker room and knowing, are you doing a 2-4 zone, or are you doing a man-to-man coverage? Because that
Right.
stuff, like you said, it comes and goes.
And then you can coach them better if you understand, what makes them tick, or how you can touch them more, and how you can have an impact on them if you understand, kind of what they're going through. Because each person is coached a little bit differently, and when you get to know them, that kind of helps even more. So that's really good. That relationship is key, and that's across
Absolutely.
everything. So
I agree. Yeah.
Awesome. Great, great, great trick. What's our second one here?
Well, I put all kids want to know where they stand, as on a depth chart.
Yep.
And I know a lot of coaches either don't like to put depth charts out, or they put them out and don't talk to the kids. And I think the one thing I've learned over the last few years is, this goes back to relationships, letting kids know where they stand.
Yeah.
On the depth chart, you are here right now. You could be way up here, but because of this, this, and this, you're not there yet. And it's really important to be honest with the kids and let them know where they are and why they're not doing it. And so when the parents come to you, and parents will come to you, all right, and you can say to them, well, little Johnny and I have had these conversations. And if you ask him, I've talked to him 3 or 4 times and told him why he's not playing in these situations.
mm-hmm.
And I think it's really important to make sure that you are honest and forthcoming with what they need to work on. But on that being said, when they do work on it and they get better, to give them the opportunity in the game
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
to try it. Because I know lots of coaches say, well, they've gotten better, but I'm afraid to put them in. Well, this is what we asked them to do, so we need to
Got to give them a chance.
Give them a chance.
Yeah.
If it doesn't work, you pull them. And I know people are afraid of pulling kids and doing this, but that's reality of life, and doesn't mean they can't go back in.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think honestly, it's a short one, but it's to just be honest and let people know where they stand. And I think that's anywhere in life.
Mm-hmm.
When I have bosses who let me know where I stand and what I'm doing, I get along a lot easier. I know, okay, this is where I am.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that there's probably more people afraid of doing that for younger people like you're working with. Like I can see, people are not as afraid to, a 30-year-old man that's been through life and how is this going to affect him? And then
Right.
you look at, this 18-year-old kid that, is going out there and playing a sport, and, are you going to ruin their self-esteem or do it? And there's all these things that people come up with. But I remember those times in high school where, especially we did a lot with basketball, and where you guys were very honest with, those students, and it took the anxiety off of them, that they knew where they stood. There wasn't this like ambiguity about do I deserve to be on the team or not? Because that's not the
Right.
way you guys ever approached it. They wouldn't be like, okay, you're still deserving to be here, but these are what you need to work on. We want to see you keep getting better. And like, I remember times where you guys would design plays to actually get them into the game for periods of time and get them out just to get experience under their belt, or
Right.
take the time when you had a different
Right.
opponent that you'd said, okay, we'll be able to run up the score a little bit. Let's get this guy in for a couple runs up and down the court, and it changed their opportunity and their experience. And then the next year they were a sophomore or junior. The next year they're a senior and they're playing as a starter. So
Right.
I think people are afraid of it. I mean, sometimes I'm afraid to tell my kids things. So
I mean, you're afraid to tell. Sometimes you're afraid to have difficult conversations with your staffs, with your interns. But in the end, sometimes those conversations where you're being honest are really helping them grow and get better. And as much as it might be sometimes hard to hear some things, like that's only going to hopefully push you to get better. So, with these tips and tricks, even like this is hopefully helping people hearing something about honesty, like understanding when people are giving you feedback. It's only to help you grow. It's not to, take away your self-esteem or anything like that, whether it's on a team or it's looking for a job. It's trying to just help you grow and get better at what you're doing. So
I don't know if we have 2 seconds, but I have a quick story with this. It's
absolutely
an interesting story. I was coaching fresh off lacrosse, and I had a kid who was very rough, and you have to do it the right way, and we don't play that way. So I pulled him and I sat him, and I pulled him and I sat him, and he didn't play the next year. He decided to go do something else, and I was and he didn't really talk to me after that, but I was doing what I felt was right. Mm-hmm. And about 2 years later, he had graduated. I was walking through the fair in Baltimore, and kid comes up out of nowhere and just basically tackles me with a hug. And and I was like, oh, wow, it's great to see you. And he's like, I have to tell you, he's like, if it wasn't for you, you're the only person that ever made me follow the rules, that sat me down and said, you have to do this or you're not playing. Everybody else always gave in to me, and you didn't. And because of that, I learned. Mm-hmm. He says, I didn't like it, and I didn't like you in the time, but because of you, I have this job now, blah, blah, blah. And it makes you think as a coach, I don't know how many times, you're the people, what they feel after, or you think, all right, you have no idea. You don't know how you change a person's life by certain things you do, because you're expecting, okay, he didn't play anymore. I had to kick him off the team, or So I just think you just don't know. You just have to stick to your guns and do what's best, what you feel is best for the kid, and
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome.
That's awesome. Well, okay, we're gonna move on. Number 3. What do we got?
So we're gonna. My coaching, and I teach also in the lower school. So I teach. Teaching is not much different than coaching, because you have to learn about your students. I teach pre-K through 4th grade PE.
Yeah, like herding cats.
Oh my God!
It's herding cats.
God bless. Oh my God!
But I also say I really haven't worked a day in my life when it comes to this, because we play games and have a good time, and but it's not any much different. Class management is probably it goes back to the relationships that I said in the first trick. Class management is the hardest thing to learn for new teachers.
Yeah, you
can teach the content; it's in the book. Okay, anybody can honestly read the book and teach. Almost anybody teach what's going on. I could probably go in, except for math, and teach any subject. But it's class management that's important. Just like managing your team, you have to manage in the classroom. Mm-hmm. So being in the classroom and having, your class management, and making sure that the kids are following the rules, goes back to the other thing. You have rules, you stick with them in the beginning. You can loosen up in April and May. If you are very loose in September and October, and you try and tighten up in January, it doesn't work that way.
You're lost them.
And I've seen lots of young teachers do that, So I think the one class that needs to be taught in college is class management. Okay. And I still think you have to get in there and do it, but to hear about it, to understand, the contents like X's and O's, mm-hmm. But class management, and being able to control your kids, knowing your kids, and controlling what they do. So my third trick is, I don't really care what your content is. If you can do class management, if you can get involved with the kids, know your kids, you'll be fine.
It's funny you talk about this because my wife took on so my wife's a third grade teacher, as you know, and Jen knows. And she took on a student teacher, and her whole thing was that the person just couldn't get the class management down. And it almost drove her crazy because she, like you, Neil, has a very tight ship, and she has a process where at the beginning of the year, she's
Right.
very, but by the end of the year, like you, favorite teacher. Best teacher ever by the end of the year. Beginning of the year, oh, Mrs. Mosovitz is so tough.
It's so mean.
It's so mean or tough. And she had a student teacher come in the middle of the year, and it drove my wife crazy because she set all this stuff up and she set this foundation, and she's like, I'm watching this whole thing that I set up
crumble.
fall apart.
Yeah, right.
And it's because of and she sat down with that young woman and said, this is about relationships and setting standards. Like, you don't need, and like you said, to be their best friend. That's not what we're here for, but you need to be their teacher. And that means understanding how to guide them and keep them on track within what they're doing. And I just, so much respect for you. I know my wife 100% agrees with you on this one from our home conversation. So.
Well, and it's like you said, it's very similar to like when you're managing a team, like keeping the team understanding what the parameters are, what the boundaries are, what the schedule and the rules are. Like, there's something to be said about whether it's staff, whether it's that people want to be within boundaries and rules to be able to keep things, on the right track. And if you just let things go and everything is just wild and there's no set structure, that's the word I was looking for, that structure, again, across everything from being a teacher to being a coach to managing a staff. If you don't have that structure, then people aren't going to respect you. They're not going to listen to you. They're not going to do what you want them to do. You're not going to guide them in the right way. So that is key.
It's funny because Jen and I bring on a lot of interns too, and in kind of reflecting on that, we always are kind of tighter with here's the things that you can and can't do, and the farther they get into the internship, the more kind of independence and
when they prove themselves, that they can handle more leadership and more responsibility and a little bit less guidance. So that one's tough to learn too. You have to
It's very tough to learn.
Experience it. So,
but you also have to ask for help. And, we've had young teachers who, I'll walk by their classroom and I know kids in their class because I've been there long enough, and, and I'll step in, like, you can't act this way.
Yeah.
Just the bottom line. You have to, and they just have to know that there's people there that can help them.
Yeah.
And that goes back to these young teachers and coaches who want to start at the highest level. Nobody wants to start at the bottom level anymore. Nobody wants to learn.
Right.
And till you learn, and get your feet wet, you're not going to help anybody, including yourself. Everybody wants to be at that varsity staff. Everybody wants to, but, the people who I know people have started, guys have been in the business as long as I have. We all started in the middle school level. We all started in the, and worked our way up, and, and still jump back down to the middle school level at times. So, you just got to bide your time. I think, and this is coming from an old guy, but technology has ruined that for them. Because they can look right on their phone, including myself, and find the answer.
Instantaneous.
Yeah.
So, but, I digress.
No, awesome. So, Jen, you're going to keep me on track. We're number 4.
We're on number 4.
Okay,
Fourth tip.
Jen keeps me on the track.
So, this is going to be a strange one. Coaches say they don't play favorites. Coaches play favorites to kids that give you the utmost effort with or without talent.
Yeah.
Now, there are plenty of coaches out there that will play favorites with kids that have a lot of talent. But most of us longevity coaches who have been around a lot, we only play favorites to kids who give you the effort every day. Okay? And you're not really playing favorites because they're earning it. But they're doing the right thing. And I've had kids who have been really, really talented. but I got another kid who's giving me everything that I can get out of them, and I know they're going to do the right thing when I ask them. Those are the kids that play.
Yeah.
And I've said that we've said that since you heard Jack Mack and I say it, in those basketball teams. The guys we trust, okay, are the guys that will play.
Right.
And in crucial situations, I need a first down. I'm going with the kid I trust.
Mm-hmm.
He may not be the most talented, but he's going to run the route right, and he's going to be in the right spot, and he's going to do what we taught him to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the thing about as a coach and any kids that are listening, the effort and the with or without talent, you can get on the field with effort,
Right.
And you just need to be as hardworking in practice as you are in games, and if you have a lot of talent, you need to work just as hard,
right?
Because you need to, people need to know you're not going to go rogue. You're not going to go, well, I'm talented. I knew I could beat him, so I went. Well, that's not the play, and it was a crucial fourth down, and we threw the ball here because that's where you're supposed to be.
Right.
So,
no, that
four was short, but it's it's about playing favorites.
Well, I mean, that's it. It's about reflecting back to students what you're trying to get at. So if you have a student that's doing something or a staff member that you feel like is doing the right thing, and acknowledging that person and making sure that people try and emulate that behavior, you want to try and recreate those positive atmospheres. And that's by rewarding those people that do the right thing.
Right.
It's that work ethic, just working hard is going to pay off, that work ethic really in any area, so
I think that goes for being in the classroom. It goes for being, in an office building.
Yeah.
We all know that person who is going to go over and beyond, and then you got that person who, it's 2:59 and you get out at 3:00. They're leaving.
Dragging. They're right out.
Yep. Yep.
They're the car started and they got one leg out the door.
Yep.
So.
Okay, last one, Jen.
All right. So, Neil, what do you know now that you wish you knew then? So, what do you know now at this point in your career that you wish you knew at the start of it?
That's a great question, Jen.
Oh, thank you so much.
No, it really is, because I mean, a lot of it I've said in these 4 tricks and tips. I think I had great mentors, so I got to know stuff a little sooner. I would say patience and letting things come to me.
Yeah.
Understanding that just because doors closed didn't mean that another door wasn't going to open.
Yeah.
And I truly understand kids that want to go to the next level and want to be higher and do that. I get all that. I really do. But I think just being patient and continuing to believe in myself that what I'm doing is the right way to do it, and that things will open up. I was not that patient. I was, even, and we joked about the officiating thing. I used to, and I'm not saying I don't yell at officials. I've coached, because I do.
Transparency.
I've coached basketball for 30 years. I've gotten 5 technicals. Probably deserved about 100. Okay.
I love it.
But I learned that when they walked by, if I say something, no matter how sarcastic I am, it usually goes over a little easier than if I'm sarcastic and the whole gym hears it. Because I can be a tad sarcastic at times, especially with officials. It's a very hard job, and I will not, but I'm still going to rock it.
That's the job of a coach, though. That's part of the
patience
job.
is where, I think patience and, and once again, and I was lucky Mr. Renko pulled me aside and taught me, about relationships, because he was right.
Yeah.
And everybody used the word legacy, but I guess after 30 years, it will not be X's and O's winning championships, winning games as much as I want to. It's, and I'll get teary-eyed here,
Aww.
but Maury being successful, having 2 kids, and a beautiful wife. The guys that text me when they get engaged, or text me that they had a baby, or that they got promoted. A buddy of ours, Jason Caldwell,
Yeah. Killing it.
Yeah. on Wall Street. And the story, is crazy. And that will be, my legacy. Watching my 2 children grow, wanting to be teachers, even though I told them not to be. And just because it's such a hard business now.
Yeah.
It's so much harder. But watching how good both of them are in the classroom, on the field, will be what I hope people will take from me as what I took from the business in my 30 years so far.
Oh.
I people ask me how many kids I have. I say I have
Aw,
kids.
look at I'm like tearing up.
Yeah.
This is so great.
So
That's so touching. Oh my God. Love it.
I mean, Neil, I can't tell you how much it means to me to have you do this, but just our relationship and what it has meant. And like I said, when we talked about doing this, I talked to Jen and I said, hey, there's somebody I really want to have on, and told all about you. And I hope that every person out there has the fortune of having someone like you in their life that helps direct them towards their future and supportive of them. And personally, publicly, I say it to you all the time, but thank you for all you've done for me and for countless people out there that have worked with you. So
you're welcome. And, it's hard for me to hear stuff.
We do appreciate you.
Yeah.
But I love every one of you. And it's, I'm a Crusader through and through, and, but more or less, you boys and are what drives me and what makes me go. I'm 55, and sometimes I can't. It hurts to walk, but I am vibrant because of getting out and working with these young kids, and getting on the field. The greatest hours of my day are between 2 and 6. I mean, 2 and 6, 2 and 7.
Well,
There you
thank
go.
you.
Neil, this was great.
We're
Thank
towards
you.
the end of this. We're running out of time. Can't thank you enough for your time. And for all those people out there listening, please make sure to follow us on all your platforms and check out our next episode. And Jen, throw out our socials.
Follow us on socials at @AthCareerPod on Instagram and X and all the other social channels and LinkedIn, and we got a TikTok too, so everything. So this is great.
We'll see everybody soon.
Yes,
Bye.
thanks, Neil. Bye.
Thank you.
If you like the 5 Tips and Tricks podcast, make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. You can rate and review us, including questions that may be answered on future episodes. The 5 Tips and Tricks podcast for careers in athletics is part of Athletic Career Consulting. Check us out at www.athcareer.com. Don't forget to follow and like us on your top social media platforms.